And good evening to everybody, good morning, good afternoon, depends where you are and what time you're watching this. And also, good evening to yourself, Sir Gonzo. How are you doing tonight?
I'm watching it from somewhere else, so it's good morning from me, Geo. I'm very well on this fine sunny morning. How are you?
I thought you were going to make a joke about me being in a different time zone to you. You missed your trick there, to be honest with you.
I did. Oh, damn.
You missed it.
I'm all right. You all right?
Yeah, feeling good. We've got the Chelsea game on just up there, and Lille have just equalised against Chelsea, so a little bit better than it was when we started the stream, actually. The goals just gone in.
After Spurs last night, the night is young in terms of that scoreline. You never know what can happen.
Yeah, I mean, I said we were doing this show tonight at 8:30, and someone said, is there any chance you could move it to 7? Way! Anyway, that's the joke's over and done with. They're only going to get worse. Well, we have one joke to start with, which is not a real joke. Fabianski's injury. We might as well kick off with that, shall we? Bad news, up to 3 months in case you've been living under a rock. Lucas Fabianski's injury, the club are hoping it's a strain. It's actually a tear on his thigh muscle or something. There's a bit of confusion, actually. Pellegrini said it was his hip. But anyway, there's a tear on his muscle. Unsure, or it was unsure on Monday if he was to need an operation or not. So he's out for up to 3 months. So I think it'll be anywhere between a month and 3 months he's injured for. Possibly the worst injury you could have, or the player that could have the injury that everyone else is. Declan Rice is the only other one that comes close, in my opinion. But it's between those as to which one is the last one you'd want to get an injury, Gonzo.
Yeah, and I didn't see it. I mean, we were just watching it, and then he was down, if you know what I mean. So, you know, it's sort of the play went up the other end of the pitch. I looked, and I said to the geezer next to me, what's happened to him? Why is he down? And no one seemed to really know. It took ages. They brought the stretcher out and all that, didn't they? And didn't use the stretcher. He got sort of carried off, you know, leaning on the physios and whatnot. But it's a player of the season, Geo. It's last year's Hammer of the Year. And it's a massive, massive loss for us. It's just brilliant. I don't know how many points a season he's worth, but it's going to be plenty, isn't it? You know, so we hold our breath. We hope for the best. You wonder about the policy of not only the signings that were brought in, but you wonder about the policy of could we have done a little bit more to keep hold of Adrian, and should we really have let Nathan Trott go out on loan? I guess this is all fine with hindsight, and but it's a big loss whichever way you think about it, because it's a long time since we've had a keeper as good as Fabianski.
The funny thing is, in the summer we were a bit concerned about the keepers we'd signed, because it was hard to be concerned about Roberto because you never really knew of him, but David Martin certainly didn't inspire us too much, and there was a little bit of worry. You're a bit apprehensive. There's that old saying in life, buy cheap, buy twice. We literally did buy twice. And the club bragged about how much wages they were saving, how cheap Roberto and Martin's wages were for the club and stuff. And when pre-season came round and we saw Roberto, it struck the fear of God into me, truth be told. Right, I'm going to put out a disclaimer before we discuss Roberto. We're going to have to discuss Roberto, okay? But I'm going to put out a disclaimer here. Being worried about a player or not being confident in a player's ability does not mean you're not going to support them. Because in social media the last couple of days going, so I've seen a lot of people obviously taking the piss that Roberto's going to be our keeper, saying, oh no, this is not good. And other people saying, how about you get behind him? Actually, you can do both, okay? And I am one of these people that fit into both categories. I am dreading seeing Roberto in goal on Saturday, and I will give my reasons why in a second, because I think you've softened on Roberto since pre-season, going by Newport and Oxford, and maybe not so much Bournemouth, but I think you maybe softened. I'll get your opinion on that, but I'm dreading it. However, on Saturday, I'm not going to shout out my opinion to him when he comes out. I'm not going to go, oh, you! I'm not very confident in your ability to come out and catch the ball from crosses. I'm not going to shout that. I'm going to applaud him. I hope he puts in a man-of-match performance. I hope he challenges Fabianski for the number 1 shirt. But some people just seem to think it's one or the other, and it can't be both. But actually, you're wrong. It can be both, and I am both. But what's your opinion then of having to play Roberto in goal for 2 months?
Yeah, listen, it's not that I've softened. Let me just mitigate that. nobody was at Oxford. Well, apart from the people that were at Oxford, should I say? Apart from the people that were at the Oxford game, there were no streams. So it was one of those games that come around every now and again where you've got to try and report what's happened.
Yeah.
Now there were so many goals scored against us, unfortunately, that you can't blame Sky for their 4 major highlights being the 4 goals. Of course, he's going to look bad in those, and he is not very good. Okay, I just thought actually it's probably fair to also report that it probably could and should have been 7 because they hit the crossbar once and he pulled off 2 magnificent saves. And so I think positionally he's very, very bad, and that's going to cost us lots of goals. But I also thought it would be worth noting that he did make 2 very good saves as well, because otherwise you just wouldn't be reporting it fairly and evenly, and giving a good representation of the game. I do hate bandwagons, Gio. I hate them. It's very much. I think it's social media. I think that's got a lot to do with it. And I don't just mean in terms of football. It's very much jump on a bandwagon. We'll all hate who everybody else hates. And so this manifested itself in the game at Bournemouth, which I think I articulated a little bit in my review. But for those of you that didn't hear it, Fabianski, as I described earlier, was carried off. The stadium announcer announced a West Ham substitution. Fabianski, Roberto comes on. And not everybody, but I would say there were enough boos, 20, 30, I don't know, audible boos. Boo, boo. West Ham fans booing the goalkeeper, and it was horrible. And it actually affected him. I think it affected his kicking. Now he might be good, bad, or indifferent at kicking, but undoubtedly it made him nervous. It wasn't welcome. It was completely detrimental, and so they're almost. I mean, and everyone hates bullying. Well, apart from bullies and people that do that type of stuff. And it was bullying. He was being bullied, and there was a number of people not only shouting It wasn't just the boos. They kept on shouting, "You crap, you effing crap," and in between saying "you effing crap," they said, "What did they say?" How can I rephrase it? They even shouted to Pellegrini, "Go away, Pellegrini, you useless runt." But you can insert your own words in there. They didn't actually say it quite as politely as that. And so there was quite a lot of that going on, and it was just hard. So if you just separate the two, I just thought I'd report that he did do 2 saves against Oxford. I felt it was just horrendous, actually, for someone to have to go through that. Someone that's on our we should be supporting undoubtedly made him nervous. And he did make a couple of saves against Bournemouth. My own personal opinion is he's not very good, but I will defend anyone's right. And I'm sorry, I know I've been talking for a long time. Right. I will defend anyone's right to turn round to the person next to them as a course of football conversation. Turn around to the person next to them and say, "I don't know why we signed this guy." That's normal conversation. What does the manager see in this player? That's normal, and I think we shouldn't be shut down from saying that in any form, be it me stood next to the guy on the terrace, or me talking to you now, or anyone in the chat should be able to question Roberto. What we just certainly shouldn't do, and as I'm sure what you're going about to go on to say, is we certainly should not be booing our own players, and that was really where I'm coming from on that.
I think their way in, the reason I think their way in might have booed is because I was going to say this in a review, and to be honest I forgot, because it was the first time I'm doing a live stream on my own. I forgot, I hadn't written it down, but it was in my head, and I've remembered it since, and that is, I would say at least 80% of the fans that were at Bournemouth were at Oxford when we got put out in the cup, and it was only 4 days ago, so it was still raw. And Roberto, in those fans' eyes, would have been culpable for a part of the defeat, and not many other players that played their part against Oxford played against Bournemouth as well. So I think Roberto just took the brunt of it from football fans, if you like. I think he might have just been the anger from getting kicked out of the cup by Oxford in an embarrassing fashion as well. Those fans travelled to Oxford during the week, like yourself, paid money, time off work and stuff, to watch us get humiliated. And he was a keeper, and since then, since the Oxford game, there was a lot of the highlights reel came out, which did him absolutely no favours, because all it showed was Oxford scoring 4 goals and him standing still for all 4 goals, and that is what's fueled the bandwagon, if you like, and I think it might have fueled the booing towards him when he came onto the pitch. I think it was an Oxford reaction. I think it'll be a different one on Saturday when he comes on against Palace. I think when he comes out, when they do their line-up and they do their handshake, when he jogs over to his goal 2 minutes before kick-off, I'd imagine he'll get a big round of applause from the team and from the fans, and I think he'll applaud the back and stuff. I'm just not confident in him. I think every time a cross comes into the box, I find him very static. I don't think he moves very much. I'm used to Fabianski collecting anything that's there to be got by a keeper. Fabianski comes and gets with ease. I've just, since Fabianski's injury, we've seen who made an absolute howler? Oh, it was Jack Butland. Jack Butland at the weekend made a howler. A cross come in, he came out to catch it and bounced onto his own player's head, and then the guy tapped it in and stuff. We've seen Dean Henderson make a howler for Sheffield United when the ball went through his legs and stuff. My worry is, not only am I concerned about Roberto in the sense that I think going into the weekend, out of all 10 Premier League fixtures, Roberto's probably in the bottom 3 in my opinion so far. That my opinion may change. We've just lost the keeper that was in the top 3. The golfing difference is massive, and it concerns me a little bit. But like I said, I hope he's man of the match on Saturday. I really do. You said you don't know how much points Fabianski saved us last season. What I can tell you is statistically, in terms of expected goals, if you believe in that starting up, he saved us 10 goals. We were expected to concede 10 goals more than we did, going by the chances we conceded. So that's phenomenal for a goalkeeper. When you think you only concede 50 goals or something a season, we should have conceded 10 more. So arguably, he's saving about 18% of goals that he shouldn't have done, which is huge. But anyway, is that enough goalkeeper talk for you? Any final words on the goalkeeper chat?
No, not really. I do believe that I do believe he's going to make mistakes. He's going to be at fault for goals, but I'm just saying, don't be surprised if in between that bad play, if he does pull off some saves. He clearly did become a goalkeeper for a reason, is what I'm saying. And I think it might just be, maybe his reactions are good or something like that. Positionally, certainly it's a worry. Decision making, it's a worry. But I think when he's got no time to think about it, I think sometimes he can pull off a save. We just have to get through it, mate. There's nothing else we can do about it now. But I do agree. But this is an old argument. This get behind the Geo. There was a point. It was one of the games last season. I went away, home, away. I'd written. I'd written 2 blogs. I'd sorted out tickets for people. I'd done loads and loads of stuff. We'd done reported from outside the game in the rain. We'd done all this stuff. I can't. What was it? I criticised somebody. I think it was Fredericks. I think I criticised Ryan Fredericks, and somebody said, "Why don't you just get behind the team?" I think as someone who had a croaky voice from singing, and it's. We can support the team. We do support the team. We go support them. We sing bubbles. We pay our money, and we love West Ham. Clearly, we wouldn't even do this thing if we didn't love West Ham. We wouldn't be doing this now.
The funny thing is, I prefer listening to and reading people's tweets of people who praise and criticise. Actually, I find I follow some people that only praise, and I find it quite boring actually, because when they give praise, I think, well, do you actually mean that? Because you're just dishing out praise left, right, and centre actually. So. There is some, you can't be too critical and you can't be too praiseful, if you like, and I like to think we're quite balanced and in the middle. Credit where it's due, but also criticise where it's due. And funny enough, when we did the interview with Dean Ashen, he said that that's what West Ham fans are good at, and that's the way it should be as a footballer. But anyway, moving on to the next topic, which is very topical on social media again, and that's the away tickets. Long story short, pardon me, today at the club, the OSB have a sub. The OSB's official supporters board, the only group the club will speak to. They have a sub group. So the OSB have a group of the OSB. 5 people in the group are not on the OSB. Is that confusing enough for you? Hopefully I've explained it okay. So that subgroup of the OSB is this ticketing group, and they met up today in order to chat about all things tickets. Now, as it has been, we've discussed it before, but we're going to discuss it again. The away ticketing thing keeps coming up. But the reason it's a bigger worry today is because there's a survey going out by people that are attending, and it's very heavily around away season ticket holders and bond holders getting tickets, and people that aren't one of those struggling to get a ticket. The priority point brigade, if you want to call it that, as well. Now, before we get on to this, actually, I'm gonna do this. Someone snitched on Gonzo recently, and I'm not very happy about it. I'm not going to ask him to go do it. I'll do it. Basically, Gonzo has an away season ticket. The games he can't go to, he gives it to someone else that can attend, and he tells the club who will be attending with his ticket because he can't. Anyway, that's okay. But anyway, someone emailed the club to tell the club this. Now, the club already know about it, so your grassing didn't really have any effect because the club knew about it. However, someone grassed on you, Gonzo, and that just doesn't sit right with me, because not only did they grass, they know enough about you personally. They know exactly where you sit and who you sit next to and stuff. So it's clearly someone that doesn't just watch videos. It's someone that knows of you pretty well, or someone that attends away games regularly enough. And I just think it's quite low, actually, that someone snitched on you. This day and age, it's not a nice thing, is it? It's another West Ham fan that's done it as well, and that's doesn't sit right with me, and that pissed me off quite a lot, actually, and it's annoying me talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, actually, well, I mean, to be fair, he did give me a preemptive warning. He told me on, in amongst some other quite abusive stuff on the chat, and he left, not the live chat, he left a message, and it was pretty, was it threatening as cybers? It was enough to suggest, I know you are, I know where you sit, we know the same people and all the rest of it. You're selling tickets on and all the rest of it. And to be fair, I am the easiest person to find on a match day, right? If he wanted to come up and speak to me, he'd come up and speak to me. If he wanted, he could come down the boats or whatever. He clearly doesn't want to do that, so he did it in the chat, and then he contacted the club. And I mean, what really annoyed me about it was this thing: you're making money. Now, I tell you now, this has really, really annoyed me. I give away. I say because we're talking about me. I mean, I'm talking about Hammer's chat. You do it as well. But the thing was on me. I gave the first 2 games of the season, as you know, my mate got married, Man City. I gave both my tickets away for free. All right? Gave them away. I make sure they're always to West Ham fans, good West Ham fans, and people I know from the forum and stuff like that. I reckon I commit to buying every single ticket that the club produces. So just in a way, season tickets last season was about £600, which is not easy money to find. I never make a penny out of any of it. If I'd always try and contact the club and try and give it back to the club, if I can't do that, there's no means to, then I will give it to somebody, another season ticket holder, and a friend. I'll give it to them for the price, which is £30. I'll tell you, there was one time, maybe last season, where I couldn't get rid of one. I just couldn't get rid of it at all. And I saw a tweet, and he'll know who he is, and maybe he'll jump in the chat or something like that. And he said, "What do you want for it?" I said, "Well, look, it's £30 on a ticket." He sent me £35. Okay, he sent me £35, Geo. I thought, all right, he sent me. I said, "You've sent me £35." He went, "Buy yourself a beer." I thought, actually, I'm still not comfortable with that, so I actually sent it. Like the one with a sticker on the envelope that you sign for and all the rest of it. I thought I'll send it tracked special delivery, and I did that because I didn't want to take it. Just the Man U game. Do you remember they shifted the Man U game, and Donna, my wife, she couldn't change her shift at the hospital? I gave my ticket, and I did it properly. I went onto the e-ticketing thing. I downloaded the PDF form. I sent it off, and I gave both my ticket and my son's ticket. I gave them to a guy who was attending his first game at the London Stadium, proper West Ham fan, watches all our videos and all the rest of it. His first game this season at London Stadium, gave him 2 tickets, gave him both for £45, which was well under it. I reckon, actually, and I think to be fair, rather than making money, I probably lose between 150 and £200 each season on tickets, and that's nothing to say all the stuff. I was absolutely disgusted by his suggestion. The club phoned me, and I said to him, "Look, you know the deal here. You know what I'm doing." Even the Newport, do you know what the ridiculous thing is? The Newport games, because they automatically take the money out of my account. The Newport games, I actually tried to give them back, and they wouldn't let me because not because they're nasty, but there was no facility for me to give them back. And it's an absolutely crazy situation. And then I get phone calls from the club, and it really annoyed me. But there you go.
Anyway, on to the generic ticketing thing, just so we can talk about what we're due to talk about. I just wanted to bring up the stitching because he's probably watching this, so unlucky, didn't really work. There's no obvious solution here. There's a problem. Is there a problem? To an extent, I think there is. I think it is a reasonably closed shop now, and but I strongly think those that do the miles should get the priority points, and then they should get priority for the next games. I think that's the way it should be. But this is my first problem. It's not always the person that does the miles that gets the priority point. It's the person that buys the ticket that gets the priority point. So I think that's what the club need to sort first and for all. That's what they need to sort, because at the minute it's encouraging people to buy tickets to sell them, because you know you'll sell them because there's a high demand for every game bar a handful. But even if you were on, say, 13 priority points, you're almost like forced to buy tickets and sell them on to keep your points up. Otherwise, you ain't getting to the games that you do want to go to, because 13 would have been quite a lot a few years ago. It's no longer enough. You know, the other less desirable ones are going low, but Everton just sold out for 11 priority points, which is still quite a bit for a 12:30 game on a Saturday. So I do think that's the first thing. But the second thing is, there has to be a way for people that have bought a ticket, like yourself or someone that's bought one through their priority points, that can no longer attend. There has to be a way for them to sell it back to the club, or to transfer it to the person going, and they get the priority point. Then that way it solves everything. So if you're looking for a ticket and you see someone on Twitter says, I've got one, the first thing you should say is, right, that's fine, transfer it to me on their ticketing site so I get a priority point and I'll give you the money for it and stuff. That will stop a lot of these point holders. I don't think there's loads of point holders, for what it's worth. I don't think there's loads of people out there buying them and selling them and stuff. But it happens for everything. It's not just football. It's not just West Ham. It happens for everything. You know, recently I tried to get a ticket to go see Liam Gallagher. You can't see him on my screen, but he's here. I wanted to go get a ticket to see him. I never got one. Within 2 minutes, they were on these ticketing sites for £400 rather than £50 or so. It happens on everything. Every way of life, ticketing for events are snapped up and resold. And concerts, it's for profit, and for West Ham and other football clubs as well, it's for the priority points. Not for profit, it's not for cash, because people are selling them on for face value. It's so that they get a priority point, which means that they can then have a chance at going to the games that they desire. But it's the way the priority point structure has worked. It's almost forcing fans into doing that in order to keep the points tally up. And I think that they need to come up with a way that you can transfer away tickets. We work with Ticketmaster. Are you seriously telling me that it's not something the club can set up using the biggest ticketing website in the country to allow fans to transfer away tickets? They're already sending away tickets out quite late. I could be wrong, but I believe that the away tickets are now landing in your door a little later than they used to. Instead of arriving a week or two before the game, they're arriving a week to 3-4 days before the game instead. I think that's almost a club trying to cut down a little bit, because then you can no longer post it to your person you're selling it to. You're cutting down the postal days. So if that's the case, you know, the first week or so before the club have sent them out, there can be like a ticketing forwarded period that goes up for all this exchanging and stuff. I think the away tickets shouldn't be scrapped. There's talk of them being scrapped. It's been sort of said that's not going to happen. It shouldn't be scrapped. It needs to be managed better. And the other thing that comes into this is the priority points. Not the priority points, sorry. It's the corporate. The corporate have priority for away tickets. Now, I don't have an issue with that, because a lot of people in corporate are away season ticket holders anyway and stuff. What the issue here is, well, I do have some sort of issue with it. I have an issue with how many, because we don't know what the answer is, because the club don't tell anyone. They're not very transparent with it. I think that would help if the club came out and said, we had an allocation of 1,800, we've got 600 away season tickets, this much bondholders, this much family and friends of clubs and players took this much. If you break it all down, that would be transparent. But they've used this away ticket thing as a sweetener to sell corporate in the summer, because they were struggling to sell corporate, so they threw the away ticket thing in as a sweetener. And actually what they should have done was make the corporate that appealing. People signed up to it without the away ticket in there, but because people have found it bad value and stayed away and didn't renew, they've had to sort of go, what can we chuck in there to get them to sign up, and that's what it is. But anyway, that's my rant over. What's your take on it? Because you look at it differently, because you're an away season ticket holder.
Well, just the corporate is, you've got to remember about corporate, it's not actually, it's easy to think it's full of mega rich people. The corporate is full of a lot of people who have just got normal jobs and are actually, paying $3,500 for the, some of them really can't even afford, they're missing out on a holiday to do that or something. So, actually, them having access to it, I don't have a problem with. The issue when it's planned, I think my issue with the corporate is when they get offered the spares that come back, if you know what I mean, which leads us on to the other thing, which is the returning of tickets, which is hard, as I alluded to earlier. It's something I always try and do. It's hard. There's no system in it, and there has to be a system. The biggest issue with the away season tickets and West Ham implementing anything on it is that they're not actually West Ham's tickets.
Yeah, they don't make money. They don't make money on them, do they? So
well, it's not just that they don't have the system. As anybody that's ever seen an away season, an away ticket will know, it's you go to Bournemouth and Bournemouth print the ticket. And Bournemouth then send all those tickets. Basically, West Ham tell Bournemouth, who to print it out from and all the rest of it. Bournemouth then send those tickets to West Ham, and West Ham send them out. So West Ham don't actually have access to their system. I guess it's just loads of emails or something going over, and West Ham are saying to Bournemouth, "This is who's attending. This is who's attending." So that's a massive problem there in terms of ticket forwarding. I think where logistically it possibly could happen is before it even gets to that stage, before West Ham have even sent the names of who's attending over to Bournemouth, if we then have something in place where absolutely like you say, do you know what I mean? We're playing away to Aberdeen in the UEFA Cup, and I can turn round and I can say to the club, I'm not going, Geo is attending. Here it is, and it is forwarding on that. At that point, it's all done on the West Ham system. And it's done before the tickets then basically West Ham submit their list to Aberdeen, who then issue you with your ticket. I think that's the way it's got to be done. I do think they're caught between a rock and a hard place in terms of they have to allow a certain. I've got some sympathy for the ballot because you can't kill the dream of someone that's never been to an away game of going to an away game, if you know what I mean. And the real bad thing about it is this is the same with any black market. Forget tickets. It could be alcohol in prohibition days. It could be anything. Black markets crop up when it's the only way to get something. And that's the trouble. Actually, the best way someone that's never been to an away game has got, and say that just a West Ham fan, they might have gone to games for all their lives, might be a fan, they might have moved out the area for circumstances, they might be a very loyal fan, and for circumstances completely out of their control, family reasons, they've not been to a game for ages and they just can't get one. You don't want to kill the dream that maybe they can go to an away game. And at the moment, the only way they can ever fulfil that dream is actually by going on the black market. And the trouble is, it's all very well if you go on social media and you get someone that's trustworthy and someone that can't go, and you're generally getting their ticket because you've got a transaction there where there's trust involved. Unfortunately, you've got a situation now where, as I'm sure you'll know, where people are actually getting fleeced and getting sold tickets where no tickets actually exist. And if there was no black market, that could never happen. If everything was done officially and no one was called a naughty boy or anything like that, then it would. I just think it would help. While there's a black market, people are going to continue to get ripped off, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, when demand outweighs supply, there's always going to be people that get disappointed. And like you say, the club are in between a hard place and a rock and stuff. But I think it's sort of partly self-inflicted. I don't have much sympathy for them because I think this problem has been growing and they've allowed it to grow, and it's been growing. They've still allowed it to grow. They had an opportunity. This reared its head. There was warnings like 2 years ago about this, if you like, because this isn't the first time we've discussed away tickets on here. So it's been occurring, but the problem just keeps on growing, and more people are getting angry about it. And the club have just buried their head in the sand about it, and now they're thinking, well, maybe it's best we take our head out the sand. And they come up and go, what's the solution? And there isn't one, so they go, oh well, back in the sand we go, I guess. And that sub-ticketing group, there's nothing they can do today. There's no solution they can come up with that's going to appease everybody. And actually, I don't think there's any solution to come up with that's going to keep 3/4 of the fan base happy, because you're going to piss off someone, and you don't want to piss off their away fans. You do not want to piss that lot off. So who do you piss off? I don't know. There's no obvious solution. But we're just fans, not the people on the subcommittee of the OSB discussing it today.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, quite.
You wouldn't want to be.
Other quick news before we move on to the questions. James Collins is finally being recognised by the club for his service. He did a podcast with Danny Gabidon on BBC Wales, and in it he basically said about how he wasn't allowed a goodbye from the club. There was a social media uproar. I say uproar, there wasn't really. Everybody just said it was a bit crap by the club and that he deserves something, and he's going to get something. So that's good news. James Collins has come back in. He's supposedly going to be an ambassador for the club, working in the lounges, doing all the meets and greets and stuff. West Ham women played at London Stadium for the first time on Sunday, creating the second highest ever attendance at a Women's Super League match. Just under 25,000 people there, and they unfortunately got beat 2-0 by Spurs, but nearly record breaker, second highest ever record attendance, so it's not too bad. Now we're going to move on to questions that was sent in previously on YouTube and Twitter, and then we'll go to the live chat. We've still got half an hour, plenty of time. Usually we're a bit late when we get to these, but we're doing not too bad tonight. Mainly because there's not much news on. But anyway, I've got a select few on the screen to come up, and then I've got some on my phone, and then we'll take the live chat. So question number 1, in no particular order, is George Carby. He says, if you had to drop one player in the current team for a player from the past, any era, who would be the players you choose?
Roberto for Phil Park.
That
was a tap-in.
I think I would swap Ogbonna for Bobby Moore, just because I've never seen him play. Simple as that. But I like to have seen him play. Question number 2 is from Ben FM22. Who will you two dress as on Halloween?
I don't. I'm the one. I carved a pumpkin, and then I'm the one that stays here while my wife takes the kids out, and I answer the door to the trick-or-treaters and give them all the chocolate that I've paid for. That's my job. I don't get dressed up. I'm sorry. I don't get dressed up. But I could be worse. I could be my next-door neighbour who basically pretends not to be in. That's quite nasty, isn't it?
Halloween's got a bit boring around here, truth be told, but it's something that's dying, I think. See, when I was a kid, Halloween was like, you were preparing 2 weeks in advance, not just your outfit, but as a child an outfit, but when you hit that teenage years, when you were 12, 13, it was all about getting the eggs, getting the toilet roll, who you were going to piss off. And then I remember one of my friends put up on social media like 5 years ago, who I used to live beside, and he's put up like a picture of a bowl full of sweets. He says, I was out tonight for Halloween, so I left this on my doorstep. He's like, I'm pretty disappointed to come home to this. He says, when I was younger, not only would all the sweets been taken, the fucking bowl would have been stolen as well. And I was just like, Halloween's dead. We have stuff here for people. We don't get many people come to the door anymore. It's dying. It's a tradition. And no, I don't dress up. It's been quite a while since I've dressed up. Gary Page, would you recall any of our loans at Christmas, as it looks like we are not going to buy in January?
I would, if he continues to play well, I would recall Diangana if the circumstances are still the same, if Antonio's still looking a bit dodgy. Actually, even if Antonio comes back, possibly, because looking at the fact that he, if anything happens to Haller, God forbid, we're in a bit of a pickle, you know. So I also think by that point he'd have had, I don't know, 20 championship games under his belt. I think he would have, whilst it might not be a full season, I think he would have really benefited from the culture of another club and a long loan. So maybe I think he'd come back a better player than he went, put it that way. So perhaps that one.
I wouldn't recall anyone. I think when you send a player on loan, I think you leave them on loan unless they're not getting game time. But you don't want to recall players not getting game time, do you? You want to recall players that are playing well for their clubs. But that's the exact reason I think you should leave them there. You know, Dean Ganna's ripping up at West Brom, and he's only like a quarter of the season in, so he's arguably, supposedly, not even supposed to have settled in yet and stuff, so just leave him there. I didn't think we should have loaned him out in the first place, but we have, so I think we should leave him there. Just let him grow, let him develop. We've seen what happens when you recall. We've recalled Reece Oxford in the past, and it all goes tits up. You know, a player's settled in, you call him back, you disrupt his routine, and you call a player back to put him on the bench. what's the point? You know, I think you're better off just leaving him where he is. Eric says, which top 6 teams do you realistically believe we can finish higher than?
I don't know about top 6 because we had this chat on a forum a few days ago. I think it's the top 2.
Okay then.
Look, if we fit, I'll give you an answer of sorts. If we can finish above Manchester United, Everton, Manchester United and Everton, then I think we've got every chance of being in and around in the top 6. You know, we really do. And I don't think that's completely unrealistic because last season you had Wolves who were thrown in there. Well, clearly they have their own troubles. Watford are not the team of last season, as we know. And there's only so many teams there. And I think eventually Crystal Palace will level out. There's lots of teams on sort of 10, 11, 12 points. Yeah, I think if you can finish above Manchester United, if you can finish above Everton, then you're in with a really, really good chance. If you then start looking at the others and start thinking, well, you know, can you overhaul Leicester or, you know, match them and then be near Leicester with a game or 2 to go at the end of the season, it starts to look a little bit fruity.
Yeah, I think to answer his question, realistically, any of them except Liverpool and Man City. I think I'm actually impressed by Chelsea. Believe it or not, I've been impressed by what Lampard's doing. I think they'll finish 3rd. I think they'll do all right. Did you watch Man U Arsenal game on Monday night?
No.
Well, be glad you didn't. They were awful. Both teams stunk the place out. Their quality and show. Someone said to me during the game, I feel like I'm watching Brighton and Burnley, and I actually thought that was harsh on Brighton and Burnley. It was that bad. They were both sides were really awful. Both managers really cautious, didn't want to lose, and you thought, like, when I was younger, this was like the giant fixture. This was the fixture in the calendar everyone looked forward to. Now, it's just, well, to put it this way, last night was Champions League, tonight's Champions League, neither of them are playing in it, and they're playing tomorrow night in Europa League. And I think them two are definitely there for the taking. And there's an absolute shambles going on at Spurs at the minute. And I'm not just meaning last night's result. You know, their away form is horrendous. It's one of the worst away forms in the country. Going back to the last season as well. There's all that rumours about the players and stuff. I know that Ericsson and Vertonghen have sort of quashed those rumours on social media this evening. But whether the rumours are true or not, it still affects a dressing room because it makes other players start questioning it and stuff. You know, there'll be players like, I don't know, for example, I'm just taking a name, Kyle Walker-Peters might have read that on social media thinking, has he? Like, has he been doing that? And so there's something wrong in that dressing room anyway. So I think, realistically, everyone but 2. James Gunn, why is it Anderson doesn't seem to have endeared himself to lots of West Ham fans? He works hard, creates a lot of chances. He extended a comment, but had a couple of swear words. I've cut that out. Only me and Gonzo are allowed to swear in the show. But yeah, why doesn't Anderson seem to have endeared himself to a lot of West Ham fans? Do you know something? I think I'm a case in point, but I'll let you answer this first.
Yeah, well, I'm the wrong person to ask because I really like him, but this is not a new phenomenon. This happens to many players, and he gives the ball a lot. He gives the ball away a lot. I think is a lot of it. I think there's something called a confirmation complex. And basically, if you hold a belief on someone, then you're just looking to see it confirmed. So actually, you might not particularly see when he does tackle back and, you know, wins 3 tackles. Actually, you know he gives the ball away a lot. So every time he gives the ball, yeah, there you go. Yeah, I knew it. Yeah, I told you this is what he does. I think there's a bit of that going on. He is one of those flair players. He creates. He's someone you're waiting around most of the game to do a bit of magic. Sometimes he does one. Sometimes he's at his best. He could be really good for a whole half, like he was against Norwich. Sometimes, like against Man U, it's one pass, which was the flick over for Yarmolenko's goal, and there's not a lot of awful else going on. I think that's a big part of it. But as I say, I'm the wrong person to ask. I do rate him.
It's difficult to answer this because I think I'm one of these people. I think the reason I don't endear myself to him, if you like, is because loads of other people do. I think he gets a pass a lot. I think he can have a really quiet game. Lanzini will have a quiet game, and social media seem to get on Lanzini's back. And I think, hang about, what about the other guy, like the Brazilian guy? I just think he doesn't turn up enough. I think he's got all the ability in the world, and when he does turn up, I was trying to say this to someone on the, I was speaking to someone on the boats, Harvey, Whetstone. I was speaking to him on the boats, and he was asking about Felipe Anderson. And I said, I genuinely think he has world-class ability. Now, I don't use the words world-class very much. I mean, last season I sat here saying Hazard isn't world-class and got a lot of stick for it, although I still stand by that. We've seen him at Real Madrid. But anyway, I think he's a bit like Hazard. He has world-class ability. I think Anderson has it. But I think you only see it once or twice a season. And I think you'll see it for the game. So Norwich this season, Southampton at home last season, you saw world-class Anderson. But when that full-time whistle goes, it stops. The next game starts, and he's back to Ghost Anderson that looks scared of the right back. He doesn't want to run at him. He doesn't want to take him on. Yet, 2 weeks ago, we were watching him skinning every player on the park. So you're thinking, where's this guy gone? Where is a guy that's been running around here, taking the piss out of everybody, who's now standing there scared against Aston Villa? Aston Villa away is a case in point as to why I struggle to fully attach myself to the Anderson loving. There was at one point, he was about 10 yards, right? He was about 10 yards ahead of their right back, because he Gilbert, is that how you pronounce his name? Whoever it was, right? He was 10 yards away. He could have kept running. He slowed down and let Gilbert catch up, and then did that thing. Do you know when you tiptoe up to someone? The ball's in front of you, and you just tiptoe, you crawl up to them. He did that, and I thought, what are you doing? What are you trying to do? You're trying to beat him. You were already past him. You've let the guy catch up. He frustrates me so much, Gonzo, because I don't know what it is. Is it a confidence thing? Maybe, but he needs a confidence boost in the first 20 minutes of a game, or for the other 70. He turns up for 30-second spells and only 3 or 4 times during the game. I think he's got all the ability in the world. He could be our best player. He really could be our best player. But he isn't, and it's because we just don't see it enough. I don't know what it is. Like,
I do wonder, just listening to you talk, I do wonder how the modern way things are with social media, how they would have handled Di Canio. I really do, because he didn't turn up for away games. I mean, when I say didn't turn up, literally, he didn't. Yeah. He didn't turn up for away games.
Well, it would have been different.
I do wonder how many, if it would be quite like it is now, because nowadays you don't get the highlight reel player. Now you get everything, and every game analysed, and the odd game like Oxford you don't get any footage, but you get every minute analysed. Why aren't they doing this for such and such a minute, or they were bad for this half, and all the rest of it. It was a highlight reel player in many respects, but you would, if you would go into the games, you knew Di Canio was obviously could be an absolute genius, but obviously played higher up the pitch and more central than Anderson. And he had the whole nutty thing going on, and he clearly loved the club, and that was his character. It was demonstrative, but he could do nothing for large parts of the game. He could get frustrated. He could get distracted. People could wind him up, chirp him. He'd get distracted. He'd spend large parts of the game arguing and not playing football. And then an away game, he wouldn't go, or wouldn't travel on the coach, or would go up there. And I do wonder how, if he'd quite have the hero worship now that he did have then.
The thing, possibly, but the thing is, if you go back to Anderson, if you were to name Anderson's top 5 matches in the West Ham shirt, I bet you we've won them all. I bet you we have won all of them. Is it because he only plays when we're playing, or is it because he is that good he influences the game and makes us win it? I actually think it's the latter. I genuinely think he's that good. When he's on form, he is that good that he can produce magic to an extent. His dribbling, when he's running full pace, his dribbling is unbelievable. We just don't see it enough. Is it confidence? Is it accountability? Is it who he's up against? Maybe he looks at...
I think it's there. It is there, Geo. It is.
What's stopping it? Does he have to do something good before he gets going? He just builds up to it a little bit, or is it because of who he's against? Maybe he looks at some right backs as being weak and thinks, you know what, I'm going to roast this guy today. Or does he look at some right backs and think, damn, he's a good right back, I'm going to struggle today? I don't know what it is, but there's just something. And a
good man manager taps into that. But I think I'm not saying Pellegrini's not, but like the very, very best guys, Brian Clough and people like that, they get in their head, they find out what makes them tick. They're psychologists more than coaches in that respect, and they get them out. But I think I've accepted from day one, for reasons I've always said this, that Anderson is not the finished player and is not a world-class player, and I agree he does have world-class abilities. I do know that those guys cost 150, 200 million. I think the reason he's a quarter as much of the top players is because he's about as quarter as good. But I think a consistent Anderson that plays well like that every game, just number one, wouldn't be at West Ham. Number two, wouldn't even have signed for West Ham in the first place.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, we'll move on to, because we'll start running out of time. Woody Allen, where does Mark Noble sit compared to other club captains in the league and in the history of Premier League leadership, not footballing ability? It's a very difficult one to answer this without sitting for 10 minutes researching. But
yeah.
Listen, he's not Roy Keane, but would he be in the top 10 all time? Maybe. I mean, as a captain, he's not really done too much wrong. But yeah,
I think he's grown into it. I don't know. Even when Allardyce came in and Nolan was there, Nolan was very much the dominant personality. And there was talk of, I remember Nolan doing an interview and saying, I'm going to groom Noble to be a captain, going to show him how to be a captain. So I think he's been a slow burner. He undoubtedly is a leader now. He's undoubtedly got his finger on the pulse of the club. No, look, he's not Tony Adams, not Roy Keane, dare I say it. It's not a bit of a dirty word. He's not John Terry. He's not those types of players and leaders. But I think he does an awful lot around that club now. I think when players get signed, I think Noble welcomes them, deals with them. I think he's grown into the role. I think he is every inch the club captain. And if you look around other clubs, it's hard to find local lads at other teams leading their clubs for as long as he. You just don't. Currently, he's probably the best one in the Premier League.
Metal Cord in 95. Do you think we have a problem crossing the ball, especially in the air? I watch a lot of Premier League football, and I think we must have one of the lowest attempted crosses per game. This is particularly frustrating, given we have a striker who's exceptional in the air
and massive. Yeah, it was very frustrating. I'd be like a scratch record. I seem to spend the last 3 games I've attended banging on about it. I don't know why we don't cross. It's clearly not the manager's ethos. He wants to play a different possession-based game and keep the ball on the deck. But I still think that's why I liked Pardew's. When Pardew did it well, there was lots of stuff on the deck, and he'd get it wide, bang, and it would go in. I do like. That's actually why I prefer Klopp to Guardiola in terms of the teams and the way they play. I actually quite like attacking in 6-7 moves rather than 30,
I agree. So is it frustrating? It's the question. What was the question? Do we have a problem? Yeah, do we have a problem?
Crossing, yeah.
No, I don't think we do. We just have a philosophy. I think that's just it. I think the club, they're doing what they're told to do. But saying that, I'll tell you what, our crossing it's more passes. You look at the goals against Bournemouth, prime example. Anderson to Allaire, who gave to Yarmolenko. It's not a cross, but it's a bit of a dink into the box, and then Yarmolenko did it for Anderson for Creswell's goal. But I'll tell you what, if Ryan Fredericks could get better at crossing, that would help. Last question I've got here, then we'll go to the live chat. Live chat, get your questions in. If you've already put them in, you're going to have to put them in again, because I don't have a pen tonight. I've come unprepared. Charlie Holland, which West Ham player do you think is the most underrated by us as West Ham fans this season? That's the key words for me, Gonzo. This season.
It's probably his Ogbonna, isn't it?
At the start of the season, I would have agreed with you, but I think people are starting to appreciate him now. I think today I would say it's Alan Creswell. I think he's had 2 really good games, and people are still saying get Masuaku in, please. But
are they?
Yeah, there's still some people, and it's also
he looked back to his best against Bournemouth.
It's reared its head because Creswell's contract's up at the end of the season, I think, and so obviously people are saying, well, I wouldn't give him a new deal. Like, he's got to go at the end of the season. I just think, well, hang on a minute, you can't decide in September because we haven't played the game in October yet. You can't decide in September if a guy's he's 29 years old. Is he past his prime? Possibly, but he's possibly not. How much is it going to cost to replace Aaron Creswell? Well, unless Usulos pulls some magic out of his arse, bearing in mind that Aaron Creswell is also homegrown, which is quite important for the quota, 20 million. So if you let him leave, you've got to spend 20 million to replace him. Now we're going to move on to the live questions in the live chat. Jazza, which West Ham player would you like to invite to your man cave?
I can't invite Haller because I've got restricted height. Jack Wilshere probably because he would fit in it, and he looks. It's like Hobbiton, and Jack Wilshere looks a little bit like a hobbit, doesn't he? So he could come in there with me, do a Lord of the Rings thing.
Stuart Lane, do you think we will actually go for it in the FA Cup this season after our Carabao Cup shambles, or am I wasting my time getting my hopes up?
Wasting your time typing the words on your keyboard or your phone, mate. We don't do cup. I think it's quite clear. We've seen enough evidence that we don't do cups.
He's got to change at some point, though, isn't he? He's got to.
Don't care. We've seen it. He don't care. If he was going to learn, he would have learned. If he wanted to, that defeat at Wimbledon would have disgusted him so much that he would have thought that's never happening again. I think he may have been. I don't think he liked the bad press or the humiliation, but I think he's probably pleased he's out of the competition. So
I actually think the keeper injury makes this worse, because our hopes of top 6 has maybe been, while it's looking promising so far, it's maybe been hampered a little bit that we've lost Fabianski for up to 3 months. So we're probably going to drop a few points, which could impact us massively come the end of the season. However, if you're already through in the cup, all you need Roberto to do is play well for a couple of cup games and you can still progress and stuff. So I actually think, it's just pure hindsight obviously, but I actually think we've made a bigger mistake now by focusing on the league, because something that's out of our hands is now throwing a spanner in the works in terms of focusing on it. Which leads us on to my next question from Emily Jarvis. She says, considering Fabianski is expected to be out for 3 months, has your predictions for where we'll finish changed drastically?
No, we're still well ahead of where I predicted we'd finish, so it would probably drag us back down to where I thought. So
yeah, I can't remember what I said. I think I said 8th. I'll stick with 8th. I still think we'll do okay. I think we'll drop some points, but we've had such a good start that we can probably afford to drop 1 or 2. Ben Davies, would you welcome Celtic and Rangers into English football?
No. Oh,
Swansea, isn't it?
I don't care.
Cardiff.
Crikey. Yeah, I mean, look, the 2 reasons that I wouldn't have Celtic and Rangers, Swansea don't offer any of that. Okay. Firstly, we do not need any more big clubs in here. Chelsea and Rangers, when they come down, if they did come down, would struggle the first 2 or 3 seasons. Give them 3 seasons of Premier League money, they'd be up there. West Ham would be even further. They would even be less likely to challenge. You wouldn't be talking about top 6. You'd be looking at trying to get into the top 8 or whatever, because they are massive clubs. If you've never been or seen one of those clubs, you've never been to Scotland, or obviously Geo has been to Scotland, as we know. Those clubs are massive. And then Swansea just never going to become that. Okay, we would be down. They would squash whatever. A lot of the clubs once they got going, got into rhythm. Also, we've got enough problems in this country without importing sectarianism onto the terraces.
True.
It's bad. It's really bad. Up there, the way they have to separate the fans. People will watch football and they won't realise what actually goes on up there. I mean, funny enough, I've been to Scotland a few times, and up in Glasgow there's a street called Sucky Hall Street. Yeah. Yes, I was in there, and if you go up the top of Sucky Hall Street, you've got a Glasgow University right up the top. And I had a job up at Glasgow University many years ago, and I actually went there on a day that was an Old Firm derby, and I'm telling you, an almighty row kicked off between Celtic. I think they'd somehow congregated there because the station's at the bottom of that street, one of the main Glasgow stations, and it all kicked off. And it's almost like what English football was famed for in the 80s and all the rest of it. The violence and the football, that's just going on all the time, and it still goes on. It's just as violent as it ever was here, and you've got the religious connotations as well. I just don't want it at all.
I say no, but not because of the Scotland thing, because I also think Cardiff and Swansea and Wrexham, for example, shouldn't be in English football either. It's English football, it should be England clubs only. I agree that if they were to get brought into England, I don't think they'll become massive straight away. I think they'll get bought out straight away, though. I think that's where the rich people think, you know what, look at the size of that club with their fan base. It's already got the brand worldwide. It's now in the most lucrative league in the world. I'm having a piece of it. I think they would get bought out like that, those two clubs. So it's a no for me. Jamie Betts, do you think with our quality we should be taking more shots from outside the box?
Yes, I think so, but you're certainly the man for this one, Gio.
Yeah, absolutely. It frustrates me. It really annoys me because Fernandes is a prime example. On Saturday, 20 yards out, right in the middle, no defender in his way. You're watching it going, hit it, hit it. He took a touch to lay himself off as well, and you're thinking, go on then. And he passed, and you're like, oh, what's the worst that can happen? A goal kick. It's not that bad. Just have a shot. Like, it frustrates me. It's got nothing to do with quality, though. It's just to do with shooting, giving them something to think about. Because every time you don't take a shot, there's a chance that the attack breaks down. But that defence grows in confidence a little bit. That's another attack we've just held off, boys. We keep going. Everything like that does boost your confidence and stuff. It's probably why we defensively look so fragile, because we concede so much shots. So every time they come at us, we think, oh no, there's a shot away to happen here. But it's just, hit it. That's the worst that can happen. Jazza, would you take McTominay to replace Mark Noble?
That's Jazz's second question, Gio. You do know he's trying to sneak.
I'm rattling through them because we've only got a few minutes. I'm rattling through them.
No, I don't think so.
What?
I don't think so.
Why not?
Because I want a fast. When Mark Noble eventually goes, I want a fast, athletic player to play in that position. I think it's something we've missed for quite a while.
I don't think he's the right player. To be fair, I'll agree with you. I don't think he's the right player, but I think he's a good player. I had this argument last Sunday before the Man United game with too many people. Oh, McTominay, but do you see his goal against Arsenal though?
Very good. Yeah,
yes.
Unfortunately, you got the old long shaft thing going on here because he's not Declan Rice. People feel they got to criticise.
I don't think he's as good as Declan Rice, but I think he's a different player. I think he's a better passer than Declan Rice. He's not as good as defensively as Rice, breaking up play, tackling, but I think he's a better passer. And I've seen him play alongside Paul Pogba and control the midfield. He's one of the best players against Arsenal, one of the best players against Barcelona last season. Yeah, damn good player, very underrated, I think. There's too many questions.
There are. That was very profound.
There is, but we're going to start wrapping this one up because Gonzo's on a tight schedule tonight. We didn't get through all the questions that were sent in earlier. I'll keep them. I'll keep them on my phone for later. You may notice a floating Martin Noble in the corner there. That's because our sponsorship deal with Aspirations has come to an end. So it's above your head, actually, to your left. Just above to your left. Yeah, there. Yeah, that's him. Gonzo's now fingering Mark Noble from we've had a sponsorship and a couple of videos with Football Index. We've got a few more Football Index sponsorship videos coming. We've got some sponsorships with One Football as well, plus a VPN provider as well, which will tell you more about that. So there's going to be a few different little sponsorships coming, but it's only with brands that we have used before ourselves and do use ourselves and that we also trust. So it's not going to be any willy-nilly that we're throwing at you, unlike what Gonzo's doing to Mark Noble. It will only be brands we trust. But Gonzo, is there anything else you would like to say before we disappear?
No, I can't think of a single thing. But although I feel a bit bad that there's lots of questions left, so we'll have to
do something. It's international break next week, so we've got loads of time to do streams and stuff. So we'll do a video in the international break where it'll be a cup of tea, but it'll be purely questions and interacting with the live chat and stuff. Anyway, that's been Gonzo. I've been Geo. Thank you for joining us in this cup of tea. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like on the video. It helps us out. Might help us get some brand deals as well. So keep going. PG Tips in Yorkshire. Your Yorkshire ones are still get back to us about sponsoring this.
They could got golden Yorkshire, please. If you know what, I'll ditch them if Tetley comes and sponsors.
I decline Tetley.
I'm a bit of a slapper. I've got to say, we're desperate for a bit of sponsorship here, so I'll take whatever. Maybe not Earl Grey. I don't like.
You just want to get teabagged, don't you? That's enough for us.
What about you, Mark? You the same?
Just subscribe to the channel. Catch you in a bit.